Welcome back to the second video in this series, which is going to discuss tactics and movement in Wargame, and general things that are good to do and things you want to avoid doing. As you can see, this is a pretty standard land deck with pretty much all the standard trimmings. You have your 2 CVs, you have your infantry, you have your spam infantry, your grinding infantry, you have your self-propelled anti-aircraft gun, you have your longer range AA, you have the automatic, which is my favorite unit in the game. You got your heavy tanks, you got your recon infantry, you got your recon helos, and then you have your planes to support that entire group. Here are my personal keybinds. I've changed some of these from the standard settings, but this is what works really well for me, and I'm going to go over what each one of these options does and how it affects the game. First off, we have toggle weapons on and off, which is really important for radar AA units because if you turn your weapons off, you can't get killed by seed. Next is the stop command, which is pretty self-explanatory, but when vehicles don't have stabilizers, they have to stop before they can fire. Next is the split command, which is used for taking larger groups of units and splitting them off into separate units. And then after you split, you can also use the spread command, which is X, and it will spread your units out further and further the more you hit it, which is good for avoiding dispersion from artillery shells and things like that. It's really good for mortars, for instance. This is fire at position, which allows you to manually target any position you want to fire your vehicle's weapons at. This is especially useful for mortars if you want to shell a specific forest where you think there might be enemy infantry hiding or an enemy AA piece. It also works on artillery pieces as well. It's your primary way of targeting with them when you can't see the enemy that is hiding in the forest. This is the fast move command, which is probably the most important command in the game. It allows you to get units to the front as fast as possible. I rebound it to F. I forget what the stock standard keybind is, but you want to fast move at all times if possible, unless you're in combat. Here's attack move, which your units are going to drive forward until they see an enemy, and they will then attack that enemy if they can. This is why recon's important, because you can't attack things you can't see. Here's reverse, which is G, which is important because you want to have your front armor facing any enemy forces you're retreating from. So here's how you unload and then load infantry into transports. Clicking U will unload the infantry, which on a helicopter it'll make it go to the ground. And then by quickly right-clicking back on the transport unit, it will get back into that transport unit, and then it's ready to go wherever you want. Here's some advanced helicopter control. You can change altitude with your helicopter, which in the case of a recon helicopter will change how far it can see and how far it can spot enemies. Dropping your altitude will also make it less likely for enemies to spot you or follow up on a run if you have a plane coming after one of your helicopters. If you land with a helicopter, you can also stop them from firing missiles at it. Your mortars can also fire smoke by pressing B and then targeting the area where you want smoke. Smoke is really good for obscuring enemies' vision of your tanks, enemies' vision of infantry pushes, and anything like that. Anything you don't want them to see, you can cover it in smoke if you have the rounds available. And these tanks are now obscured by smoke, so any enemy recon in the area in front of them will not be able to see them. Therefore, if they are calling in ATGM planes, the ATGM planes won't be able to fire at these tanks because they can't see them, because all their missiles are line of sight based. The way to counter this is with units like the Kernas or cluster bombers, which are kind of useful in this situation because they can cluster bomb the entire smoke cluster, possibly killing or wounding the tanks inside there. So this is just your basic push in this game where you use recon to spot things to kill. You then have Dragoner, which are your grinding infantry and basically your meat shields, pushing in front of your tanks, and then you have your AA support behind them, and then you also have mortars behind providing smoke support, and you can even fire MLRS at the town if you want to stun or panic all the troops defending that town. Here's a good example of just how effective smoke is. Smoke completely obscures the vision of the F-18. It can't hit any of the Vihors, so it's effectively wasted an entire attack run and incurred a lot of damage and almost gets shot down. Being unable to see or kill my tanks, they send in a Nighthawk out of desperation, and the Nighthawk gets shot down. Cerny Bombardier. So this is what happens when you use smoke effectively. So right here is your typical 10v10 game full of spam. And my enemy has decided to send in a bunch of tanks with no recon, with no infantry support, and with no AA cover. So what do you think is about to happen here? They're gonna get slaughtered. I mean, each one of those tanks ranges from 100 to 150 points, and they are about to get destroyed by a bunch of Apaches, Cobras, and a bunch of automatics. So this is what happens when you don't use recon, because if they used recon and had AA cover, they would be able to kill all those Apaches, all those Cobras, and they would be able to easily spot my automatics and kill them in rapid succession. So basically, I hope you learned that Wargame just comes down to combined arms, and whoever has the better fire support is going to come out victor in any type of conflict. Like this Baz is getting dunked on because it has no recon, it has no smoke. If you're looking for more detailed videos about specific mechanics or how you can play in specific situations, I would suggest reading the Honhonhon guide or watching Razzmans' entire video series that covers pretty much everything you need to know about playing this game. But this video is pretty much designed just to get you started and get you a little acclimated to the game and to show you the general way of doing things so that you don't feed a ton of units to your enemies and then your entire team gets angry with you. If you're interested in watching some Wargame streams, Putin187 streams quite often, and he is regarded as one of the best ranked players in the world and is just generally enjoyable to watch because his game sense is amazing and he is really, really good. I also stream in North American time, and you can catch me on weekends. You can catch me occasionally on weekdays as well, but primarily from 12 to 5 o'clock on weekends in the afternoon. So if you're interested in that, give me a follow on Twitch, and I will see you guys on there.
Oh, come on, give me two longbows. Two longbows!